Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be trying to get the S13 subframe back in the car after I modify it. So I'm going to be going to use a lathe, make those pieces so I can bolt the steering rack in, and then I need to lower the engine mounting positions because I'm using these poly mounts. So let's go over, try to get this stuff done hopefully, and get this thing back on the ground and ready to fire up. Just came over to Ford. I've been having this issue where my vents aren't blowing very hard. I think the cabin air filter is plugged up, so I'm gonna replace my old one with a new one. I was gonna get a K&N, but I would have had to order it. They had this in stock. So I'm gonna go replace that. Hopefully it fixes this problem. I mean, you have your hands right here and you barely can feel the air coming out of it. So pretty much to replace this cabin filter, you just open the glove box, drop the glove box down, pull some stuff out right here, and then you can access it behind the glove box. And I'm not exactly sure what I'm gonna find in mine, but I'm definitely thinking that there's a lot of stuff in it that's plugging up the flow of air. If that's not the issue, then there's something with the fan motor. It's not kicking on high enough because this stuff blows super low. Like I can't even feel it blowing. So like the AC, the air coming out of it's like super cold, but there's no like volume to like get to you. So it takes forever for the truck to cool down. I'm gonna pull this down and then see what's in this box, and hopefully all I have to do is replace this. So pretty much just pull this towards you, then squeeze the box in, it drops down, then you pull the little plastic thing, you can get your fingers underneath it and just pull it back, then remove these two 7 mils, and you can see the little box right here for the cabin air filter. Expecting this thing to be a little bit more dirty. It is pretty dusty and everything, but I was expecting to be like maybe a mouse nest on top of this. I'm gonna throw the new one in. Hopefully it fixes the problem, and maybe that's just full of so much sand and everything that it doesn't have good flow. One thing to note, you want to stick this thing in with the letters, you know, so you could read them and everything, and then it just goes, pretty much slides right into that hole. You can see the new cabin air filter in there and read the letters. There's these little wings on each side of the filter. Make sure those are pointed up. Right now, it's pretty awesome. I just replaced the filter. I'm testing out the fan. I can feel this all the way to my face now. So that filter had to have been really, really plugged up. It didn't look that bad. It just looked dirty. I'm guessing all that sand that was in there was a sign. So I guess if they look dirty, they're probably, you know, it's probably time to replace them. So I'm glad that this is blowing nice and it's not, you know, I can feel it now. It was, you know, I could have my hand up to the vent and I could barely feel it. So this is a lot better now that I could drive my truck around and actually feel the AC on me instead of it just like kind of, you know, gracing me with its presence. Just got done cutting the factory engine mounts off the factory subframe on the S13. I'm really glad I did. I didn't think I was gonna have to cut that much off, but I'm at the point where I wanted to use that poly mount. So really, all I need is a piece of tube that takes up this area right here, which shouldn't be too hard, and it's probably only like 25 mil. So I have a stir stick down there for oil pan clearance. That's probably about 1/4 inch of oil pan clearance. And I got some parts, so I'm gonna test these out. These are the steam vent pieces to do the steam vents. So I'm gonna see how they work. I already have the back ones out. I think I need to still pull the front ones. And I also ordered some stainless hard lines so I can make all the lines for the steam vents. I think I should be able to possibly get maybe one under the intake manifold. We'll see about that. Maybe I'll just run one up here. I want to keep the lines for the steam vents pretty tucked and low because I don't want them any higher than the radiator cap right here. So I really don't want the lines to come way high up. I'd rather, if I ran a line, I'd run it almost exactly in between that V right there, all the way back. So we'll try those out, and they pretty much just go in those holes right there. And just finished installing the first steam vent on the front of the driver's side head. I really do like these steam vents. They are very nice quality. They look good. They come with all the hardware, and first and foremost, this is positionable. Before you tighten it down, you can move it whichever direction you want, tighten it down, and then you don't have to worry about if it's going to be going the way you want it to go. You just position it and you're set. So the link for these will be in the description. Check them out if you're working on an LS. I do recommend getting these. So I have the steam vents all sorted out. I had this little T that I ordered, and I'm still kind of debating on how I want to run this. But since the fast 102 intake manifold sits so low on the engine, you can't run any steam vent tubes under the intake manifold. This one has the 2-port right there coming out on that side. And I was going to stick it on the other side to match this side one, but because the 2-port one is on that side. The reason I didn't was because the intake manifold gets too close. So on the back it was too close, and then if I put this one right here, it would be too close as well to screw a nut onto it. I'm 3 stops in trying to find a tap for my subframe, and it's like they don't carry any useful taps. It's all sizes that you'd never use. All the sizes that you would actually use, they don't carry. So I think I'm gonna have to order one. I'm gonna order one tonight, and it should be here in the next couple of days. I can get this subframe banged out and back in the car. UPS just dropped off some parts for the LS, and the post office will be dropping off some other parts later on, so I can get this thing back together. But for now, I ordered something to kind of take care of this issue with the valve covers. I don't have the original coil brackets, so to bolt the coils on, I needed to come up with something or order some brackets, but I ended up just ordering some valve covers where the coils just bolt directly to them. The valve covers I did end up getting are orange. They didn't have ones that were the right color that I wanted them to be, because the other ones had like Chevy or LSX. I just wanted ones that were kind of plain, but I did want the coils to actually bolt to the valve cover, and you know, this was the best alternative. So these are orange. Later I will hydro dip these to match the intake manifold. I want to do the cherry blossom to kind of go with the anime theme. So the valve covers will be cherry blossom, the intake manifold will be the anime chick, and you know, that will be later on. But for now, I'm going to throw these on and get everything pretty much coil and valve cover wise buttoned up. Ran into my first snag with the Holley valve covers. So I bought the valve covers because they had the ability to bolt the LS1 coils to the valve covers, which eliminated me having to find and source the stock LS1 bracket. That's really the only reason I bought these. The second reason I bought them was because they're painted. The finish on these is not that great. It's pretty orange peely, it looks like the clear is really light, or the powder coat or whatever they did. The other thing is the coils, the LS1 coils don't actually bolt to these because these are for the newer coils for the LS7 to LS9. So my coils for my LS1, my Msd Blaster Coils, don't work on these valve covers that were, you know, that's the reason I bought these valve covers, was so those blaster coils would bolt directly to them. That's another issue. Something else I didn't like was how these bolts go in. They're kind of hard to actually get the bolts to go in while you hold the O-ring in place, because the O-ring groove isn't tight enough to hold the O-ring up by itself. It's pretty close, but it's pretty, you know, it'll fall down, it'll make you mad. So that's one thing. One other thing, another thing with the bolts is the stock LS1 bolts are 10 millimeter, and they decided to make these a 9 millimeter. It's beyond me why they did that. And you know, I didn't have a 9 millimeter socket, so I had to use a wrench, and it took a long time to get all 8 of these bolts tight with a wrench, while holding the O-ring up and trying to keep the valve cover centered, because these don't have like they're like self-centering. They're like almost like a cone on the end. And you know, the biggest thing was that the coils don't bolt to it. So if any of my subscribers are interested, I have these brand new LS1 Msd Blaster Coils that are for this build, but I need the LS6, I think, to LS9 coils. They are the coils with the plug on the back side. So these ones, you can see the plug for the, you know, both plugs are on the same side. The newer coils, the plugs are on the opposite side, is with the ones I need. So if anybody's interested, if you guys want to do a straight trade, get me some LS7 LS9 coils, you know, the same kind, and you know, that's what I need. So if anybody's interested, I'll do that, or I'll just end up buying some, and these will be for sale. These are like 600, 650. When I bought them, I think they're like 800. So you know, if I could get these sold for like 650, they'll pretty much cover the cost of the other ones, because I think the newer ones are cheaper. I think they're like 500 to like 600. So anybody's interested, DM me on Instagram, and let's get, you know, this problem resolved so I can get the LS started. I was hoping to get it started this weekend, but obviously without coils I won't be able to, and I don't want to use these coils just for like, you know, a startup. So if anybody's interested, let me know. And now, since I can't do the coils, I'll put the spark plugs in, the new wires, and I have all the stuff to do the steam vents, and I have all the stuff to put the injectors in. So I'll continue working on this as much as I can. Too bad I can't get it started this video, but maybe in the next video I can actually get it started. Valve covers on, even though they did disappoint me, they still look decent. I got the spark plugs and spark plug wires on, so I went with NGKs, and I went with the Taylor wires. Taylor wires, spark plug wires, I have used them throughout a bunch of different projects, everything that's not coil on plug, and they are very good wires. I'll put links in the descriptions for all this stuff if you guys want to check it out or get your hands on some of it for yourself. Pretty much, I'll probably throw all the links for everything that I have so far in this build, and you know, then you guys, it'll make it a little bit easier too, for if somebody wants to reproduce this thing. So, still waiting for the post office to deliver the mail today. It's like 6 o'clock, so they should be here in an hour, so I can get the injectors in and some other stuff. But right now, I'm gonna work on the lines for the steam vent. So in the description, I'll also put all the links for all the hardline supplies, and pretty much this will be for the steam vents, but for any size AN fitting you're gonna use, you could do hard lines. I did a lot of hard lines on the FD. Pretty much all my fuel lines are hard lines. I'm probably gonna redo the ones on the FD though in stainless, because I did originally do it in aluminum, and I think stainless is a little bit better. It looks better, you know, lasts longer, looking better, and everything. So you get the size line that you need for the fitting, and then there's this it's called a tube nut, and also there's a, you know, a ferrule inside, and pretty much all it does is it has a 37-degree flare that you put on with this tool right here. I'll also put this in the description, and this little cutter in the description. And then you need a bender depending on what size tube you have. These benders, there's a few different kinds, and the most important thing about the benders is that they have like different radiuses for the size tube, and sometimes the larger tubes don't have very tight radiuses. This is the smallest of the tubes that you can use on this bender, and it is a pretty decent radius, but even then, to get a to start a bend, you have to figure out where you want to route the line. And how I do that is I kind of look at the whatever I'm going off of. So back here is the back vent, and these actually swivel, so that's a plus right there. It's a lot easier to make lines. But then going off of this, I want the tube to come out so it doesn't hit anything, and then also it can't hit the intake manifold down there, so it has to come out. That's the least amount it can be over to still be able to tighten the nut. And then for back here, you want it to be nice and tight along the you know, the engine and the firewall, so it's not interfering with any of that. So to actually do these bends, the first bend is the easiest, the last bend is always the hardest. And when you have this line coming off and it's still straight over here, and it's just coming straight after that last bend, you pretty much want to draw a line from whatever fitting you're going on straight across, and then mark it. You could use another piece of tube, whatever you're going to use, and you just put a mark on it. And then you come over to the tool over here, and this tool, you pretty much have these little R and L's on there, and where your mark is, if the tube is to the left, the piece that the finished piece is to the left, you want to line it up with the L. If the finished piece is to the right, you want to line up with the R. It's pretty simple. And then there's degrees on here. Then I always cut these things a little bit longer, so I know where I have to cut it again, just so I don't cut it too short, because you do have to flare this, so you still have to, you're still going to lose a little bit of material in the flare. So my kind of tip is to cut it almost a little bit further than the little nipple, and then you should be okay once you flare it. The post office just dropped off the mail, and I wasn't sure if these were gonna work, but I ordered them anyway. It was worth the 20 bucks to try them. So these O-rings, I will throw a link in the description for the part number, so you guys could go order them. If you have a fast intake manifold, you will definitely need these O-rings. because you can see the difference in size between the factory Bosch ones that come on the injectors and the fast O-rings, which are quite a bit larger, so they fit in that, I think it's a 14 millimeter hole. So now I could stick all 8 injectors. These are 2200 cc high impedance Bosch. The back steam vent line is coming together, and this is why I love hard lines. They're just so nice and tidy. They're a lot thinner. You don't have to run such a thick line, and they just look so much nicer, and it just makes everything so much cleaner once everything's done. So you can see that back line back there, this front line, and all I have to do now is connect it to that T right there, and yeah, it's just nice and tucked in there right below the injectors. I mean, that just is hidden, kind of. It's like in sight, but it's also out of sight. I'm at a stopping point on the 240, and what is really stopping me on this thing to get it started is I need to order coils. I need to order a different fuel rail. I have a fast one, but the other fuel rail that I'm gonna order doesn't, you know, require injector top hats. The fitting right here, this little T that I got a different one where there's 2 ports on the one right here and one right here instead of over here. So that will be better. Then I can run this vent line to the top one, the other vent line from the other side on the bottom, which will be nice because there is a lot of room down there. And before, when I ordered this one, I thought that would work, but you know, you run into issues like that when you're actually making lines and stuff. That line does look really nice. And what else do I need? I need to order a little coupler, a 90-degree one, so I can make an intake. And I think that's about it. Tomorrow the injector plugs will come. I already have the coil plugs, the plugs to make the harness, and I think the alternator one will come. But other than that, that is pretty much all I need to get this thing to fire up. And you know, radiator hoses and stuff, once this thing fires up, I'll have to do those to get this thing running so it doesn't, you know, so it has coolant, obviously. But you know, it is getting very close. I think tomorrow I will I'll have the tap to finish the subframe. So I made those pieces, but they for some reason nobody has an M12 by 1.25. It's like the most common thread pitch on like import stuff. Even like the Dodge has M12 by 1.25. So I don't know. I should have that tap tomorrow, and I can finish the subframe up because I need to get the steering rack. You know, I need to make the steering rack mount to it, and I also need to, you know, modify the engine mounts so the engine mounts work with this lowered LS in there. Once that's done, I will be able to set the car back on the ground, and this thing is going to be, you know, almost ready to drive, other than the diff in the rear, which I'm going to pull out of another car, and I'm going to swap these Megan tracks to some better coilovers. So other than that, let me throw some oil in this thing. I'm going to fill it up. I did get some, wherever it's at, I got some right there, some 040 for it. That wraps up today's video. The LS is getting extremely close to being able to fire up and actually run. So I'm pretty excited about that. If you like these videos, make sure to click that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, comment below, and see you guys next time.